The multiverse has a way of colliding when least expected. In a reality where gods wear capes and darkness masquerades as justice, the arrival of a warrior from beyond the dimensional veil would test the very foundations of heroism. Prime Earth had survived crises that rewrote existence, faced down tyrants who bent knee to no moral law, and watched its greatest champion nearly become its worst nightmare. But nothing prepared the DC universe for the day a scion fell through a rift in space-time and landed in the heart of Metropolis with a smile on his face and an appetite that could bankrupt a city. The rupture opened above Centennial Park at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Witnesses reported a tear in reality itself, crackling with energy that tasted of ozone and possibility. What emerged wasn't an invasion force or cosmic horror. It was a man in an orange GI, black hair defying gravity, falling with the relaxed posture of someone who'd crashed through dimensions before. He hit the ground hard enough to crater the concrete, rose without a scratch, and immediately asked the nearest terrified civilian where he could get something to eat. 3 blocks away, Clark Kent felt the impact through his bones. The shockwave registered on his Kryptonian senses like a thunderclap of pure power, raw, unfiltered, and utterly foreign. He was airborne in seconds, red cape streaming behind him as he crossed the distance at speeds that turned Metropolis into a blur. What he found in Centennial Park made him stop mid-flight and hover. X-ray vision scanning, super hearing analyzing, every Kryptonian sense trying to process what stood before him. The stranger stretched, working out kinks from dimensional travel, completely unbothered by the growing crowd of smartphone-wielding citizens. His energy signature blazed like a star, not solar radiation like Clark's own power, but something else. Something that felt alive, conscious, vast beyond measurement. The man noticed Superman hovering above and waved with enthusiastic innocence. "Hey, you wouldn't happen to know where I can find some food, would you?" Dimensional travel really works up an appetite. Clark descended slowly, maintaining safe distance. Smiled diplomatic, but senses on high alert. Up close, the power radiating from this stranger was even more staggering. It reminded him of facing Darkseid, but without the malevolence. Like staring into the sun and finding it friendly. "I'm Superman. Welcome to Earth, though? I'm guessing you're from somewhere quite far away." Clark kept his tone warm, but his mind was already racing. "What's your name?" "Son Goku. Though most people just call me Goku." The Scion's grin was infectious, completely guileless. "I was training with Whis when something went wrong with the dimensional fabric, at least." That's what he said before I fell through. "Is this Earth?" "It feels like Earth, but different somehow." "It's Earth," Clark confirmed, extending a hand that Goku shook with surprising gentleness. Given the power Clark could sense coiled in those muscles. "But probably not the Earth you're from. You've crossed into another universe entirely." Goku's eyes widened with delight rather than concern. "Really? That's amazing. Does that mean there are strong fighters here?" "Back home, I've been looking for new challenges ever since the Tournament of Power." "Oh man, this is going to be great." Clark felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. This stranger possessed power that rivaled his own, possibly, exceeded it, and treated dimensional displacement like an opportunity for entertainment. The implications were staggering, and somewhere in Gotham, Clark knew with absolute certainty. Bruce was already watching through 1,000 cameras, analyzing every word, calculating threat assessments. "Why don't we start with that meal you mentioned?" Superman said, making a decision to extend trust before suspicion. "And then we should probably introduce you to some friends of mine. They'll want to meet you." "Food first, definitely." Goku's enthusiasm was almost childlike. "I could eat about 50 burgers right now." As Superman guided the Scion toward a restaurant that could handle the impending bill. High above in the watchtower, alarms were screaming. Martian manhunters. Telepathic senses reeled from the sheer presence of the newcomer. Wonder Woman's hand moved instinctively to her sword. And in the Batcave, surrounded by monitors displaying every angle of the crater in Centennial Park, Bruce Wayne's eyes narrowed behind his cowl. He'd already run preliminary analysis. The energy readings were off the charts, comparable to a Kryptonian, maybe stronger. The stranger showed no signs of distress from Earth's atmosphere, suggesting similar biology or adaptive capability. Most concerning, the complete lack of guile in his body language. Either this Goku was the most skilled actor Bruce had ever analyzed, or he was genuinely, dangerously naive. Bruce's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up contingency files. He'd learned the hard lesson years ago during the Tower of Babel incident. Hope was Superman's domain, but protection through preparation was his. Every hero needed a failsafe. Every power needed a counter. And this newcomer, with godlike strength and the awareness of a child, represented a threat level that demanded immediate protocol development. The computer beeped. Analysis complete. Threat level, Omega. Recommended action. Eliminate or neutralize before integration with potential hostile elements. Bruce stared at the screen for a long moment, then opened a new file. Project designation, contingency protocol, Scion. He would need samples, behavioral analysis, physiological data. He would need to identify weaknesses. And he would need to do it all while Clark played ambassador to a walking apocalypse. In Metropolis, Goku demolished his 50th burger and asked for more, laughing at Superman's stories about the Justice League. For now, there was friendship and the warmth of two aliens far from home finding common ground. But in the shadows between hope and fear, in the space where paranoia met preparation, the world's greatest detective was already planning how to kill a man who'd done nothing wrong. The question that would fracture the Justice League wasn't whether Batman could do it. The question was whether he should. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. The Watchtower conference room had hosted debates over cosmic threats, world-ending disasters, and philosophical differences that shook the foundations of heroism. But the argument currently tearing through its reinforced walls felt different, more personal, more dangerous, because this wasn't about what to do with a villain. It was about what to do with an innocent who possessed the power to crack planets like eggs. Batman stood at one end of the table, cowl shadowing his expression, tactical display showing holographic data that made his case with cold precision. Superman faced him from the opposite end, arms crossed, jaw set in that particular way that meant Clark Kent's Midwestern patience was reaching its limit. Between them, Wonder Woman remained seated, one hand resting on the table, the other near her lasso, ready to intervene if words escalated to something worse. He registered at 2.4 million on the spectrographic power analysis. Bruce said, voice flat and factual, "That's 48 times your baseline." Clark, he creates shockwaves just by powering up. The seismic data from his sparring session with you 3 hours ago registered as a 4.7 magnitude earthquake across 6 states. He pulled every punch, Superman countered, heat creeping into his tone. He was playing Bruce, testing limits without causing real damage. That shows control, not recklessness. It shows he doesn't understand the fragility of this world. Batman's fingers moved across his gauntlet interface, pulling up footage of Goku, laughing while trading blows with Superman above the Arctic. He treats continental-scale destruction as entertainment. His psychological profile indicates zero strategic thinking, no threat assessment capability, and a compulsive need to fight increasingly powerful opponents. You mean he's optimistic and loves a challenge? Clark shot back. Those aren't crimes, Bruce. They are when coupled with enough power to atomize cities by accident. Bruce leaned forward, and for a moment the cowl's shadows couldn't hide the intensity in his eyes. You saw how excited he got when you mentioned Darkseid. He wanted to know if he could spar with the Lord of Apocalypse. He thinks intergalactic tyrants are potential training partners. Diana's voice cut through the tension like her blade through silk. Both of you breathe. She looked between the two men who'd saved the world countless times together and were now seconds from a different kind of war. Bruce, your concerns are noted. But let us not forget, we judged Clark a threat once too. When he first arrived, governments wanted him contained or destroyed. You yourself maintained contingencies, which I still maintain, Batman said without apology, and which proved necessary during the Injustice timeline in the Dark Multiverse. Power without accountability is tyranny waiting to happen. Superman's eyes flashed red for a microsecond, not intentionally, but the reaction of a man pushed too far. Don't you dare compare me to that version. And don't you dare use it to justify paranoia. It's not paranoia if the threat is real. Bruce pulled up another file. He's already attracted attention. Lex Luthor sent 3 reconnaissance drones. Amanda Waller contacted me asking if I'd assess him for Task Force X recruitment, and our deep space monitors detected a boom tube signature opening briefly near. Apocalypse, Darkseid is watching, which is why we should integrate him into the League, Clark argued. Make him an ally before someone else makes him a weapon. He's pure-hearted, Bruce. I can see it. He reminds me of you, Batman finished. Which is exactly what worries me. You're a Kryptonian raised by good. People who taught you restraint and responsibility. He's a scion, a warrior, raised by his own admission, who treats mortal combat as recreation. What happens when his friendly spar accidentally kills someone? What happens when a villain tricks him into attacking the wrong target? What happens when he decides that Earth's conflicts bore him and he leaves, taking all that power with him after we've become dependent? Diana stood, her presence commanding immediate attention. Enough. You both make valid arguments. But we spiral into hypotheticals. She turned to Bruce. What would you have us do? Exile him? Imprison him? He has committed no crime. I would have us prepared, Batman said carefully. Full biological analysis, psychological evaluation, tactical assessment of weaknesses, standard integration protocol for unknown metahumans. You want to find out how to kill him, Superman said quietly. Say it plainly, Bruce. The silence stretched like a blade against a throat. I want to know how to stop him if necessary, Batman finally replied. Same as I do for every powered individual on this planet, including you. Clark's hands clenched into fists. The Tower of Babel nearly destroyed this team. You swore you'd never. I swore I'd never let those protocols fall into villain hands again. Bruce interrupted. I never swore to stop developing them. The universe doesn't care about our trust issues. Clark, threats don't announce themselves with villain monologues anymore. Sometimes they arrive, with smiles and empty stomachs and enough power to reshape reality. He shared his life story over lunch, Superman said, and something in his voice made Bruce pause. His best friend died in his arms. He's watched his son grow up while he was dead. He's fought to save his universe over and over, not for glory or revenge, but because it was right. Does that sound like someone we should treat as an enemy? It sounds like someone whose losses could be weaponized, Batman replied. Every hero has breaking points. We've all seen what happens when those points break. Diana moved between them, hand raised. A vote, then. Standard League protocol. Do we extend membership to Son Goku, with all the trust and access that entails? Or do we maintain observation distance? I vote yes, Clark said immediately. Give him a chance to prove himself. Give us a chance to know him. I abstain, Bruce said, which they all knew meant no without him having to betray his position completely. Until I have sufficient data to make an informed decision. Diana looked between them, warrior princess weighing hope against caution, diplomatic truth against strategic necessity. I vote. Probationary contact. He trains with us, fights alongside us if threats emerge, but does not receive full watchtower access or classified intelligence until he proves himself. A middle path. So we treat him like a suspect, Superman said bitterly. We treat him like an unknown, Diana corrected. Which is what he is, despite his friendly demeanor. Bruce is right that we must be prepared. But you are right, Clark, that we must also extend the trust that defines us as heroes. We offer both, friendship with boundaries. Batman's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly. It was more than he'd expected from Diana, and they both knew it. Superman looked like he wanted to argue further, but the weight of Diana's wisdom stopped him. Fine, but I'm taking personal responsibility for him. He's staying in Metropolis, training with me, learning about this Earth. And, Bruce, his eyes locked onto the cowl's white slits. If you cross a line, if you do something that betrays the principles we're supposed to stand for, you and I are going to have a very different conversation. The threat hung in the recycled air of the watchtower. And for the first time in years, Batman wondered if the fracture lines in the Trinity were becoming cracks. He'd maintained contingencies for Superman before. He'd planned for the day Clark might lose his way, might become the tyrant he had the power to be. But he'd never considered what would happen if Clark lost faith in him first. Noted, Batman said simply and turned to leave. He had work to do, biological samples to analyze, weakness patterns to identify, toxins to develop. Because whatever vote the League made, whatever diplomatic solution Diana brokered, Bruce Wayne had learned the hardest lesson of all in his crusade against crime. Hope was beautiful, but preparation kept people alive. And the Scion currently demolishing his sixth buffet in downtown Metropolis, laughing with Jimmy Olsen about something called Senzu. Beans represented a threat that demanded the most thorough preparation Bruce had ever undertaken. Even if that preparation made him the villain in Superman's eyes, Metropolis had learned to accommodate Superman's appetite. Reporters regularly joked that the Man of Steel could clear a Thanksgiving table in seconds. But Goku was making Superman look like a light eater. And the staff at Shin's all-you-can-eat buffet was starting to regret their business model. 17 plates sat stacked beside the Scion. Each one licked clean, and he showed no signs of slowing. "This is amazing," Goku said around a mouthful of General Tso's chicken. "Your Earth has such different flavors from mine. Although I gotta say, I miss Bulma's cooking. She makes these Capsule Corp energy bars that really hit the spot after training." Clark sat across from him, nursing coffee and trying to reconcile the childlike enthusiasm with the readings Batman had shown him. The power sleeping inside this man could reshape continents. Yet here he was, debating the merits of egg rolls versus spring rolls with the innocence of someone who'd never considered himself dangerous. "So these Super Saiyan forms you mentioned," Clark ventured carefully. "How many do you have?" "Oh man, let's see." Goku counted on his fingers. "There's regular Super Saiyan, which multiplies power by 50. Then Super Saiyan 2. Super Saiyan 3, though that one eats through energy like crazy. Super Saiyan God is red. Super Saiyan Blue combines God power with regular Super Saiyan. Then there's Ultra Instinct, which isn't technically a Saiyan form, but it lets my body fight without me thinking about it." He paused, grabbing another plate. "Oh, and Kaioken. But that's a technique, not a transformation." Clark's super hearing caught his own heartbeat accelerate. 50 times multiplier. And that was the baseline form. "You're holding back right now, aren't you? Your natural state." "Well, yeah. If I powered up to even Super Saiyan here, I'd probably blow out all the windows." Goku said it like he was discussing the weather. "Maybe collapse the building. I've gotten better at control, but it's still a lot of energy." "And Ultra Instinct?" Clark asked, trying to keep his voice level. Goku's expression shifted, became more serious, more focused. For just a moment, Clark saw something beyond the friendly exterior. A warrior who'd touched the realm of gods and survived. "That's different. It's like my body moves on its own, reacts to threats faster than thought. Perfect defense, perfect offense. I can't maintain it for long, and honestly, it kind of scares me sometimes. It's like being awake and dreaming at the same time." Clark thought about Batman's data, the threat assessments, the contingency protocols already being developed in the Batcave. He thought about Tower of Babel and the feeling of betrayal when he'd learned Bruce had planned ways to kill them all. And he made a choice, the choice he always made, the one that defined him as Superman rather than just another powerful alien. "Goku, I need to tell you something," Clark said. "My friend Batman, the one who'll probably show up, eventually wearing all black and scowling, he's going to see you as a threat. He's going to analyze you, study you, try to figure out your weaknesses." Goku blinked, genuinely confused. "Why? I haven't done anything wrong." "Because you're powerful, incredibly powerful, and Batman's job is to prepare for worst-case scenarios." Clark leaned forward. "I'm telling you this because I want you to understand. Not everyone here will welcome you with open arms. Some will fear what you represent. Like Frieza back home," Goku said quietly. "Or King Piccolo before that. They feared Science because of what we could become." He met Clark's eyes. "I'm not them. I don't want to conquer anything. I just want to protect people and fight strong opponents to get stronger myself." "I believe you," Clark said, and meant it. "But belief isn't always enough. You'll need to prove yourself here. Earn trust. Show that your power serves something greater than just your own improvement." Goku nodded slowly. Then his expression brightened again. "So this Batman guy, is he strong? Could I spar with him?" Clark couldn't help but smile despite everything. "He's strong in different ways. No powers like ours. But he's beaten enemies that should be impossible for a normal human to defeat. He's the most dangerous man I know, and that's without any special abilities. Now I really want to meet him." Goku's enthusiasm was infectious. Back home, Master Roshi started without any powers too. Just decades of training and technique. Same with Krillin. He's my best friend and one of the strongest humans on Earth. All through hard work. Before Clark could respond, his super hearing caught the familiar sound of a grappling gun's pneumatic hiss. He looked toward the restaurant entrance just as the door opened. Except nobody walked through. A shadow moved wrong, separated from the wall. And suddenly, Batman stood in the middle of the restaurant as if he'd been there all along. Goku nearly jumped out of his seat. Whoa, how did you? I didn't sense you at all. That's the point, Batman said, moving toward their table with measured steps. Up close, he was smaller than Goku expected, human-sized, built like an Olympic athlete, but nothing superhuman. Yet something about the way he moved made Goku's combat instincts prickle. This man was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with power levels. Goku, this is Batman, Clark said with resigned formality. Bruce, this is Son Goku, Scion warrior from Universe 7, capable of multiple power transformations, energy projection, teleportation via instant, transmission, and sustained flight without technological assistance. Batman sat down uninvited, white-lensed eyes fixed on Goku with unsettling intensity. You fought gods, survived multiple deaths, and your idea of training involves beings that can destroy planets. Did I miss anything? Goku scratched his head, impressed despite the clinical delivery. You're pretty thorough, though I guess Superman told you most of that. I've been monitoring your biometrics since you arrived, Batman said. Your resting heart rate is 40 beats per minute. Your cellular structure generates and stores energy in ways I've never seen. Not Kryptonian, not metahuman, not magical. You're a completely unknown variable. Bruce, Clark warned. Batman ignored him, reaching into his utility belt and producing a small device. I need a DNA sample. Blood, saliva, hair follicle. Any will work. What? Goku asked, not defensive, just curious. Because if you're going to operate on this Earth, I need to know what can hurt you, Batman said bluntly. What happens if you're exposed to specific radiation frequencies? What if you're infected with a biological weapon? What if an enemy uses mind control? I need answers. Clark tensed, ready to intervene, but Goku surprised them both. He plucked a hair from his head and handed it over. Sure, here you go. Batman's expression didn't change, but Clark could tell he hadn't expected cooperation. Just like that. You want to protect people, Goku said simply. I get that. Back home, Bulma runs tests on me all the time to help develop training equipment. If knowing about my biology helps you keep people safe, I'm fine with it. He paused. Though I should warn you, Scions get stronger after near-death experiences. It's called Zenkai Boost. So trying to kill me might just make me more powerful. Noted, Batman said, securing the hair sample in a containment vial. What are your weaknesses? Goku considered. Well, I need to eat a lot to maintain energy. If I'm cut off from food for too long, I get weaker. Strong enough opponents can still hurt me. I've got durability, not invulnerability. And he hesitated. I'm not great with smart enemies. Strategy isn't my thing. I usually just power through problems. Clark watched Batman process this with growing unease. Goku was being completely honest, laying out tactical information that could be weaponized against him. Either the Scion was the most trusting being Clark had ever met, or he was so confident in his power that he didn't consider vulnerability a concern. What about magic? Batman asked. Haven't faced much of it, Goku admitted. There's Bu back home who uses magic, and the Kais have some mystical abilities. It can definitely affect me. I'm not immune or anything. Batman stood abruptly. We're done here. For now. He looked at Clark. Keep him in Metropolis. If he leaves the city limits without League supervision, I'll consider it hostile action. Bruce, he's not a prisoner, Clark said, voice hardening. He's an unknown entity with apocalyptic power who just handed over everything. I need to develop countermeasures, Batman replied, which either makes him incredibly stupid or incredibly dangerous. I haven't decided which yet. Goku's expression remained friendly, but something shifted in his eyes, a flash of the warrior beneath the innocent exterior. I'm neither. I'm just someone who ended up somewhere new and is trying to make friends. If that makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. But I'm not going to change who I am because you're scared. The temperature in the restaurant seemed to drop. Batman and Goku locked eyes, detective and warrior. Paranoia and innocence, fear and trust. Two philosophies colliding. We'll see, Batman said finally, and turned toward the exit. But before disappearing into shadow, he glanced back at Clark. Tower of Babel wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Remember that. Then he was gone, leaving only the faint scent of Kevlar and the echo of a threat. Goku exhaled slowly. He really doesn't trust anyone, does he? He trusts, Clark said quietly. He just prepares for the day that trust is broken. It's what keeps him going after everything he's seen. Sounds lonely, Goku observed, grabbing another plate because stress apparently made him hungrier. Back home, I've got Vegeta. He's prickly and paranoid too. But we're friends. We push each other to be better. Maybe your Batman just needs someone to spar with. Clark smiled sadly. I don't think Batman spars. Goku, I think he wins, or he doesn't fight at all. In the Batcave, Bruce Wayne placed the hair sample into an analysis chamber and began the most comprehensive threat assessment of his career. The computer hummed, breaking down Scion DNA, searching for weaknesses, cataloging vulnerabilities. On another screen, footage of Goku's easy cooperation played on loop. Alfred approached with tea. The young man seems remarkably forthcoming, Master Bruce. Too forthcoming, Bruce muttered. No one gives up that much tactical intelligence unless they don't consider it a risk, which means he's either confident he can survive anything I develop, or he genuinely doesn't see me as a threat. Perhaps he simply trusts you to do the right thing, Alfred suggested gently. Bruce's fingers stopped typing. He stared at the screens, at the DNA analysis showing cellular structures that could survive, planet-destroying impacts, at the power readings that exceeded Kryptonian baselines, at the friendly smile of someone who could end the world and didn't seem to realize it. Trust gets people killed, Bruce said finally, resuming his work. Preparation keeps them alive. But even as he said it, as the computers calculated toxin, compositions, and radiation, frequencies that might affect Scion biology, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered the question he'd been avoiding since. Tower of Babel. At what point did preparation become premeditation? At what point did the protector become the threat? The spar that broke the Richter scale happened on a Thursday. Superman had suggested the Arctic, specifically, a remote ice shelf 300 miles from any human settlement. Goku agreed enthusiastically, and within seconds of Clark explaining where they were going, the Scion vanished via instant transmission and reappeared at the coordinates before Superman could even finish taking off. You're fast, Clark said, landing on the ice beside him. His breath didn't fog in the sub-zero temperature. Kryptonian physiology didn't care about Earth's weather. Goku seemed equally unbothered, wearing only his GI despite winds that would freeze a normal human solid in minutes. Instant transmission is handy, Goku admitted. Though I got a lock onto someone's energy to use it. I felt yours moving north and just followed. Your energy is really interesting. It's like sunlight made solid. And yours is like… Clark paused, trying to find words for something his Kryptonian senses couldn't quite categorize. A living flame. Conscious fire. I've never felt anything like it. They stood on the frozen wasteland, two aliens far from home, and for a moment simply appreciated the strangeness of the multiverse that had brought them together. Then Goku's expression shifted into something predatory, not malicious, but hungry. The look of a fighter who'd found a worthy opponent. So, how hard can we go? Clark smiled. Let's find out. He moved first, Kryptonian speed that turned the world into frozen statues. His fist drove toward Goku's jaw with enough force to shatter mountains. It should have connected. Instead, Goku's head tilted slightly, the punch passing through empty air, and suddenly, Clark was blocking a counterstrike that sent shockwaves across the ice shelf. They separated, both grinning. You're fast, Goku said appreciatively. But I can see you moving. Let me show you something. His hair flickered gold for a microsecond, just a flash, and he vanished. Not instant transmission. Pure speed. Clark's enhanced perceptions tracked him, barely, as Goku appeared behind him and tapped his shoulder like a child playing tag. That was Super Saiyan, Goku explained as his hair returned to black. I'm trying to keep it minimal so we don't accidentally sink the ice shelf. Don't hold back on my account, Clark said, And there was an edge to his voice that came from being Kryptonian, from being the strongest thing on his adopted world for so long, from never truly being tested. I want to see what you can really do. Goku's eyes brightened. Really? Okay, but we should move higher. Way higher. They shot into the sky, leaving the Arctic behind, climbing through the stratosphere until Earth curved below them and stars burned cold above. At this altitude, sound didn't exist, but they didn't need words. The language of warriors transcended speech. Goku powered up gradually. His hair flickered gold and stayed that way, Super Saiyan. The legendary transformation. His power signature exploded. And even in the vacuum of near space, Clark felt the pressure like a physical weight. The energy radiating from Goku made Earth's magnetic field shudder. This is about 1%, Goku said, his voice carrying through some quality of his ki that transcended physical sound. I'll go up from here slowly, so you can match me. They clashed, and the sky screamed. Superman had fought Darkseid, traded blows with Doomsday, held his own against the fury of gods. But Goku fought with a precision born from decades of martial arts training combined with power. That made nuclear weapons look quaint. Every strike was technically perfect, every counter calculated, every movement economical and devastating. Clark responded with Kryptonian strength. Heat vision that could melt steel in microseconds. Frost breath that could freeze oceans. Goku adapted instantly, dodging heat vision with afterimages, deflecting frost breath with key barriers, matching Superman's strength with psion biology that thrived on combat. They traded blows above the atmosphere, each impact releasing energy that rippled through Earth's magnetosphere. Aurora Borealis danced across both poles. Satellites adjusted their orbits. And in the Batcave, every seismic monitor screamed warnings. More, Goku laughed, and his hair shifted from gold to blue, Super Saiyan blue. Divine energy combined with Saiyan might. The power increase was geometric, exponential. Clark felt it like a sun igniting in front of him. He pushed harder, drawing on every ounce of solar radiation his cells had stored. They were evenly matched now, trading blows that would have vaporized planets. Clark's tactical mind cataloged everything, Goku's breathing patterns, the way his power fluctuated between attacks, the microsecond delays between defense and offense. And Clark realized, with something between awe and terror, that Goku was still holding back. You're analyzing me, Goku said suddenly, breaking their rhythm. They floated opposite each other, both breathing hard, both smiling. I can feel it. You're learning how I fight. Habit, Clark admitted. Batman taught me to always study opponents. Find patterns. Identify weaknesses. That's smart, Goku said without irony. Vegeta does the same thing. He's way better at strategy than me. But here's the thing. His expression grew serious. Fighting isn't just about winning. It's about pushing each other to be better. That's what I love about it. Clark felt something shift in his understanding. On Earth, on his Earth, fighting was necessity. You fought to protect, to defeat threats, to save lives. Victory was the goal. But Goku approached combat as something else entirely. As growth, as connection. As a form of communication between warriors that transcended words. Show me your strongest form, Clark said. I want to see what you're truly capable of. Goku hesitated. Are you sure? Ultra Instinct is intense. I'm sure. What happened next would be analyzed by the Justice League for months. Goku's power signature changed entirely, became smoother, colder, more perfect. His hair shifted silver white. His eyes transformed to match. And the aura surrounding him stopped flickering and became absolutely still. Like the eye of a hurricane made manifest. He didn't attack. He simply existed. And Clark felt his combat instincts scream that something fundamental had changed. This wasn't power. This was transcendence. Goku had stepped beyond consciousness into something that operated on pure instinct. Clark threw a punch at speeds that would let him circle Earth 7 times in a second. Goku's body moved without him seeming to direct it, flowing around the strike like water, and tapped Clark's chest with one finger. The impact sent Superman tumbling through the vacuum for 3 miles before he arrested his momentum. Sorry, Goku called out, and his form flickered. Ultra Instinct couldn't be maintained long. His hair returned to blue, then gold, then black as he powered down completely. Lost control for a second there. Are you okay? Clark floated back, rubbing his chest where a single finger had hit harder than most of Darkseid's Omega beams. I'm fine. That was incredible. That's as strong as I can get right now, Goku said. Though I'm still training to maintain Ultra Instinct longer. Whis says I'm close to mastering it fully. They descended back to Earth together, landing on the same Arctic ice shelf they'd started from. It was cracked now, spider-webbed with fissures from the shockwaves of their battle. Evidence of power that dwarfed anything the Justice League typically faced. That was amazing, Goku said, practically vibrating with enthusiasm. You're really strong, Superman. We should train together regularly. Oh, and maybe I could meet some of your other friends? That green lady who can shapeshift looked interesting. And the guy with the ring that makes constructs. I want to see what that's about. Clark smiled, but inside his mind was racing. He'd felt Goku's power firsthand now. Understood what Batman was afraid of. This wasn't just a metahuman or even a Kryptonian-level threat. Goku was something beyond. A warrior who'd trained with gods and angels. Who'd touched levels of power that made Earth's strongest heroes look like children. And he wanted to meet the Justice League. Train with them. Become friends. I'll arrange something, Clark said. But Goku, I need you to understand. Not everyone will be as welcoming as me. Some people will fear what you represent. I know, Goku said. Your Batman friend made that clear. But I figure if I just keep being myself, eventually they'll see I'm not a threat. He paused. I mean, I am a threat to bad guys, but not to good people. The simplicity of his worldview was almost painful to hear. Clark had been raised by Jonathan and Martha Kent, taught that the world was complex and morality often lived in gray spaces. But Goku seemed to operate on pure instinct, good versus evil, friend versus enemy, with very little room for the shadows between. It made him powerful, and it made him vulnerable. Come on, Clark said. Let's get you back to Metropolis. I promised Lois I'd introduce you. She wants to do an interview for the Daily Planet. An interview? That sounds fun. Goku's enthusiasm reset instantly, the warrior becoming the innocent again. Will there be food? I'll make sure of it, Clark promised. They flew back toward civilization, Goku chattering about his friends back home and Clark listening, with half an ear while his mind worked through calculations. In the Batcave, Batman would have recorded everything through satellite feeds. He'd have measured every strike, analyzed every power increase, cataloged every vulnerability that Clark's combat study had revealed, and Bruce would be developing countermeasures. Clark wanted to believe it was paranoia, wanted to trust that Batman wouldn't cross certain lines. But he'd seen the contingency files during Tower of Babel. He knew exactly how far Bruce was willing to go to protect the world. The question was, how far would Clark go to protect Goku from Bruce's protection? In Metropolis, Lex Luthor stood in his penthouse office, watching satellite footage of the Arctic spar on multiple screens. His analysts had calculated the energy output. His scientists had measured the seismic impacts. His tactical team had modeled combat scenarios. Every model ended the same way. If the Scion ever decided humanity was an obstacle, humanity would cease to exist in approximately 6 minutes. Get me Amanda Waller, Lex said quietly, and pull every file we have on extraterrestrial biology. If Superman's new friend is that powerful, we need options. On Apocalypse, Darkseid watched the same footage through mother box surveillance. His stone face showed nothing, but his eyes glowed red with interest. A warrior who could match Superman. A fighter who sought challenges. A power that could potentially resist the anti-life equation. Decide. Darkseid's voice rumbled through the throne room. Prepare a Parademon reconnaissance unit. I want cellular samples. I want behavioral analysis. And I want to know if that Scion can be broken. The pieces were moving. Across Earth, across dimensions. Powers that had maintained careful balance now recalculated their strategies around a new variable. Some saw opportunity. Some saw threat. And in the Batcave, surrounded by data and driven by fear disguised as preparation, the world's greatest detective began synthesizing a toxin, specifically designed to exploit Scion biology. He told himself it was protection. He told himself it was necessary. He told himself that when the time came, if the time came, he would be ready to save the world from the smiling warrior who wanted nothing more than friendship and a good fight. He told himself a lot of things. But even Batman couldn't escape the question. At what point did the Protector's knife become the assassin's blade? The samples told Batman everything he needed to know and nothing he wanted to hear. Psion's cellular structure was a masterpiece of evolutionary adaptation. Each cell contained microorganisms that generated and stored energy with efficiency that made Kryptonian solar absorption look primitive. The DNA was aggressive, adaptive, designed for survival under extreme conditions. Most troubling, the cells showed evidence of multiple reconstructions, places where catastrophic damage had occurred and been repaired stronger than before. The Zenkai boost was a metaphor. It was biological fact. Master Bruce, you've been down here for 72 hours, Alfred said, descending the stairs with a tray that held tea and sandwiches Batman wouldn't eat. Perhaps a rest is in order? Rest is what gets people killed, Bruce muttered, eyes locked on the analysis screens. Look at this, Alfred. His cells don't just store energy, they evolve in response to threats. Every near-death experience makes him exponentially more powerful. He's a biological arms race in humanoid form. He's also been volunteering at the Metropolis Food Bank, Alfred observed dryly. Master Kent mentioned that young Goku spent 6 hours yesterday helping serve meals to the homeless. Apparently, he ate 3 times as much as he served, but the sentiment was noted. Bruce's jaw tightened. That was the problem. Goku's actions were consistently, frustratingly altruistic. He'd stopped 2 muggings, prevented a building fire by blowing it out with what witnesses described as a huge breath, and had carried an elderly woman's groceries 5 blocks. Without being asked, he was, by every behavioral metric, genuinely good-hearted, which made him the most dangerous kind of threat, the one you couldn't justify opposing until it was too late. Pull up the Tower of Babel files, Bruce said. Cross-reference with the Injustice timeline data from the Dark Multiverse Incursion. Alfred's expression grew grave. Sir, perhaps we should discuss. Pull them up. The screens shifted, showing contingency plans for each Justice League member. Kryptonite for Superman. Hypnotic suggestion for Wonder Woman. Engineered fear toxin for Green Lantern. Each one designed not to kill, but to neutralize. To remove threats without crossing the line. Bruce had drawn for himself decades ago in an alley where his parents' blood still haunted him. But those contingencies assumed human psychology. Earth-based biology, weaknesses rooted in this universe's laws. Goku was foreign to all of it. The Injustice timeline showed us what happens when power isn't checked. Bruce said quietly. Superman lost Lois. In his grief and rage, he created a totalitarian regime. He stopped being a hero and became a tyrant. All because no one was prepared to stop him when he crossed that line. And you believe Goku poses the same risk? Alfred asked. I believe Goku is even more dangerous because he doesn't think strategically. Bruce replied. Superman knew right from wrong and chose wrong. Goku might choose wrong by accident, by naivety, by trusting the wrong person. What happens when Lex Luthor convinces him that humanity would be better off under Psion protection? What happens when Darkseid offers him the ultimate fight in exchange for Earth's surrender? Goku thinks in terms of personal combat, not geopolitical consequences. The computer beeped. Analysis complete. Bruce read the results 3 times, hoping he'd misunderstood. He hadn't. His weakness is his strength, Bruce said finally. The same cellular structure that makes him powerful also makes him vulnerable. Those energy-storing cells require constant fuel, not just food, but specific proteins his Psion biology needs. Cut off the supply. Introduce a toxin that prevents cellular energy absorption, and he'd weaken rapidly. And how would you administer such a toxin? Alfred's voice was carefully neutral. Bruce pulled up behavioral analysis. Goku's patterns were consistent. He trusted easily, ate constantly, never scanned food for poisons. Because the concept of someone poisoning him seemed not to occur to him. It would be trivially easy. A toxin in his food. Something tasteless that would bind to those cellular energy receptors and starve him from within. Master Bruce, Alfred said, and his voice carried a weight that made Bruce look up from the screens. I have served this family for decades. I watched you become Batman, supported your crusade even when I disagreed with your methods. But I must ask, what line are you approaching? The line between protection and prevention, Bruce said. The same line I've always walked. No, Alfred corrected gently. Tower of Babel was preparation for if your allies became enemies. What you're contemplating is preemptive. Assassination of someone who has committed no crime. He's a walking extinction event, Alfred. So is Master Kent. So is Diana. So are you. In your own way. Alfred set the tea down firmly. The question is not whether young Goku could destroy the world. The question is whether you've become so consumed by fear that you would murder an innocent to prevent a possibility. Bruce's hands curled into fists. You didn't see the injustice timeline. Didn't see what Superman became when no one stopped him. The bodies, Alfred. The heroes he killed when they opposed his regime. The way he looked at Batman and saw only an obstacle to eliminate. I did not see it, Alfred agreed. But I see you now, and I am concerned. There is a reason you do not kill. Master Bruce. A line you drew after your parents died. Once crossed, that line becomes meaningless. And synthesizing a poison for an innocent man, regardless of his power, is crossing it. It's a contingency, Bruce said. Same as all the others. The others were defensive protocols. This is murder in waiting. Alfred moved toward the stairs, then paused. When you finally deploy this contingency, and we both know you will, because you always do, I pray you can live with what you've become. The butler's footsteps echoed up the stairs, leaving Bruce alone with his screens and his fear and his certainty that he was right. He worked for another 6 hours, synthesizing a compound he designated Contingency Protocol Scion Alpha. It was colorless, tasteless, designed to bind to Scion's cellular energy receptors and prevent key absorption. Lethal? No, Bruce didn't kill. But it would reduce Goku to human-level strength within hours. Keep him weakened indefinitely if not treated. All he needed was opportunity. In Metropolis, Goku was learning to like this Earth. The people were friendly, different from home, but kind in similar ways. Superman had introduced him to Lois Lane, who'd interviewed him with questions that made him think harder than any fight. He'd met Jimmy Olsen, whose enthusiasm reminded him of Gohan when his son was younger. He'd even met Perry White, who'd gruffly approved of anyone who could eat lunch with Clark Kent and still have room for dinner. You settling in okay? Clark asked as they walked through Centennial Park at sunset. Families played on the grass, children laughed. The city hummed with peaceful evening energy. Yeah, it's nice here, Goku said. Though I do miss Chi-Chi and the boys. Wonder how their training is going without me. He paused, watching a father teaching his daughter to throw a frisbee. Do you ever miss your home planet? Krypton. Clark was quiet for a moment. I never knew it. I was a baby when it was destroyed. Earth is my home, the only one I remember. But sometimes I wonder what Krypton was like. If I would have fit in there better than I do here. You fit fine here, Goku said with simple certainty. You protect people. That's what matters. And you? Do you fit on your Earth? Goku considered. Not really. I mean, I've got friends and family, but I'm always the weird one. The guy who'd rather fight than farm. Who gets excited about universe-ending threats because it means a strong opponent. Chi-Chi says I'm a terrible role model. He grinned. She's probably right. They sat on a bench, two aliens watching humanity go about its evening routines. And for a moment neither spoke. The sun painted Metropolis gold, and somewhere in the city, Batman watched through camera feeds and held a vial of poison. Clark, Goku said. Suddenly, if I ever go bad, if something happens and I become a threat, I want you to stop me. However you have to. Clark tensed. What brought this on? Back home, I've been possessed before. Controlled by magic. Tricked into fighting the wrong people. And I've seen good people become evil when circumstances push them. Goku looked at his hands that had destroyed planets in self-defense. Saved universes, killed when necessary. Power like mine. It's scary sometimes. I try to use it right. But I know I'm not smart enough to always see the bigger picture. You're smarter than you think, Clark said. Nah, Goku laughed. I'm really not. That's why I need people like you. People who understand stuff I don't. So promise me, if I mess up, if I become something I shouldn't be, you'll do what needs doing. Clark wanted to refuse, wanted to say it would never happen, wanted to believe in the purity he saw in Goku's heart. But he'd seen the dark multiverse, seen the versions of himself that had fallen, knew that anyone, given the right push, could break. I promise, Clark said quietly. But Goku, it won't come to that. I'll make sure of it. Good. Goku stood, stretching. So, when do I get to meet the rest of your team? The green lady who can shapeshift, Martian Manhunter, and the ring guy, Green Lantern. Oh, and Wonder Woman. She's supposed to be an amazing fighter. Soon, Clark said. Diana's been eager to test you in combat. Warrior culture, she respects strength. Perfect. I love a good fight. Goku's enthusiasm was so genuine, so uncomplicated, that Clark felt his heart break a little. Because somewhere in Gotham, Bruce was preparing to betray that trust, to poison that innocence, to prove his point about preparation. And Clark didn't know if he could stop it. In the Batcave, Bruce sealed the vial of toxin in a lead-lined case. Contingency Protocol Scion Alpha was complete. All he needed now was opportunity, a league gathering, a shared meal. A moment when Goku's guard was down and his trust was up. Bruce told himself it was protection, told himself it was necessary, told himself that when the history was written, when the crisis was averted, people would understand. He told himself a lot of things in the darkness. But even Batman couldn't escape the simple truth. The moment he deployed this contingency, the moment he poisoned an innocent man because of what he might become, Bruce Wayne would cross a line that no amount of justification could uncross. The protector would become the threat. The hero would become the villain. And the Dark Knight who swore never to kill would commit murder by degrees. One molecule of poison at a time. The Justice League gathering was Diana's idea. A formal introduction to the full roster, held in the Watchtower where Earth hung below like a blue marble, and the stars reminded everyone how small their conflicts were against infinity. She'd insisted on proper warriors' hospitality, food, drink, and the chance for Goku to demonstrate his abilities. To those who hadn't yet witnessed them, Batman had agreed immediately. Too immediately. Clark noticed, but said nothing. Watching, Bruce with the wariness of someone who knew exactly what his friend was capable of. The Watchtower's dining facility wasn't designed for Scion appetites, but John Johns had replicated enough food to feed a small army. Goku stood at one end of the table, surrounded by platters, while the Justice League assembled around him. Diana in her armor, regal and curious. Hal Jordan in his Green Lantern uniform, cocky grin already in place. Barry Allen vibrating slightly with speedster energy, eager and friendly. Victor Stone's cybernetic eye scanning Goku with technological interest. And Batman, standing in the shadows near the door, white lenses reflecting nothing. "Welcome, Son Goku," Diana said formally. And there was weight to her words, the Amazon princess speaking. Not the superhero. You stand among Earth's greatest protectors. We have heard tales of your strength and witnessed your character through our brother Superman's eyes. Tonight, we welcome you as a warrior and potential ally. Thanks, Goku said around a mouthful of synthesized steak. This is amazing. You guys have a space station that makes food out of nothing? That's way cooler than Capsule Corp technology. It's called a replicator, Victor explained, his human half smiling at Goku's enthusiasm. Star Trek tech made real. Though I gotta say, watching you eat is making me hungry, and I don't even need to eat anymore. You should try some anyway, Goku insisted, pushing a platter toward Cyborg. Food tastes better when you share it with friends. Barry zipped closer, his metabolism making him Goku's only competition at the table. So, Superman says you can transform? Like, change forms and get stronger? That's so cool. I can phase through solid matter, but transformation is way more impressive. It's not that special, Goku said modestly. Most Scions can do it if they train hard enough. Well, most full-blooded Scions. My sons can do it too. They're half human, which actually makes it easier for them in some ways. You have children? John's telepathic voice carried warmth. As the last Martian, family was a concept he cherished. Tell us about them. Goku's face lit up. Gohan's my oldest. He's way smarter than me, became a scholar. But when he fights, he's incredible. Then there's Goten, who's still young but already super strong. And Trunks, he's not mine, but he's Vegeta's kid. So practically family. He paused, expression growing more serious. I haven't been the best dad, honestly. I'm dead a lot. Or training, or saving the universe. Chi-Chi, that's my wife. She gets mad about it sometimes. Says I care more about fighting than family. The burden of power, Diana said quietly. I understand. Warriors often sacrifice personal happiness for duty. Is it really a sacrifice if you enjoy it? Hal asked, genuinely curious. I mean, you love fighting, right? That's not duty. That's passion. Goku scratched his head, considering. Maybe? I never really thought about it that way. Fighting makes me feel alive, helps me grow stronger. But I do it to protect people too. It's both, I guess. Clark watched from across the table, dividing his attention between Goku's easy integration with the League and Batman's stillness. Bruce hadn't moved from his position near the door, hadn't eaten, hadn't spoken, just observed with that predatory patience that made him the world's greatest detective and the world's most dangerous planner. Goku, Barry said, what's your top speed? I've been clocked at faster than light. But Superman said you kept up with him during your spar. And he's one of the few people who can actually match me. Honestly, I don't know, Goku admitted. Speed's never been my thing. I'm more about power and technique. But instant transmission lets me cross huge distances instantly if I can sense someone's energy. Teleportation? Hal's construct ring flickered with interest. That's a serious tactical advantage. No wonder you're so dangerous in a fight. Not really dangerous, Goku protested. I mean, I can fight, but I'm not trying to hurt anyone who doesn't deserve it. Define deserve it, Batman said suddenly. His first words of the evening cutting through the friendly atmosphere like a blade through silk. Everyone turned to look at him. What's your threshold for violence? When does someone become a target? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Clark tensed, ready to intervene. Diana's hand moved slightly toward her lasso. But Goku just looked at Batman with that same open, honest expression he'd worn since arriving. If someone's trying to hurt innocent people, I stop them, Goku said simply. If they're just strong and want to fight, I'm happy to spar. If they're really evil, like Frieza was, or Majin Buu before he became good, then yeah, I'll kill them if I have to. But only if there's no other choice. And who decides there's no other choice? Batman pressed. You? Based on your judgment? Your feeling about someone's character? Bruce, Clark warned. No, it's okay, Goku said, meeting Batman's white lenses without flinching. You're asking if I'm a judge, jury, and executioner. And yeah, sometimes I have been. Back home, I've killed enemies who wouldn't stop, who destroyed whole planets and would keep destroying. I'm not proud of it, but I'd do it again if I had to. He paused. But I've also spared people who probably deserved death. Vegeta killed tons of people before he became my friend. Piccolo tried to conquer Earth before he became my teacher. Even Buu, who killed almost everyone I cared about, got a second chance and became a hero. How convenient, Batman said, that your mercy seems to extend to anyone you deem worthy of redemption, while your judgment falls on anyone you decide is irredeemable. That's not justice. That's tyranny with a friendly face. Batman. Diana's voice carried a warning edge. You go too far. Do I? Batman stepped forward into the light, and for the first time Goku saw him fully. The armor, the cape, the symbol on his chest that was somehow darker than the black surrounding it. I'm asking the questions everyone's thinking, but too polite to voice. This stranger has power that exceeds our entire league combined. He's admitted to killing based on his personal judgment. He stated he loves fighting and seeks out stronger opponents. What happens when we become his challenge? What happens when Earth's conflicts bore him? That won't happen, Goku said firmly. I'm not here to take over or hurt anyone. I'm just trying to get home, and until I figure out how, I want to help. Intentions change, Batman said. Superman had good intentions too. In another timeline, those intentions paved the road to a totalitarian regime. Clark stood abruptly. Bruce, that's enough. Goku isn't that Superman, and you have no right. I have every right to protect this planet from threats, regardless of their origin or intentions. Batman's voice never rose, never wavered. That's my function in this league. You're all so powerful, so godlike, that you've forgotten how to see yourselves as others see you. As threats, as walking apocalypses that humanity tolerates because they have no choice. The silence that followed was suffocating. John's telepathic presence radiated distress at the sudden hostility. Barry had stopped vibrating entirely, frozen with social discomfort. Hal's ring flickered as his willpower wavered between defending his teammate and recognizing. Batman had a point. Victor's human eye showed pain while his cybernetic. I calculated tactical positions. And Diana looked at Batman with something approaching pity. You have become what you feared most, she said quietly. So consumed by preparing for threats that you see nothing else. Goku has shown us nothing but honor, and you treat him as an enemy. I treat him as an unknown variable in an equation that could end with 8 billion deaths. Batman replied, someone has to think past the immediate moment. Someone has to prepare for the worst. That's always been my role. No, Clark said, and his voice carried a weight that made everyone pause. Your role was to be our conscience, to remind us to be better, to question our methods, to keep us humble. But somewhere along the way, Bruce, you stopped being our conscience and became our prison warden. And I'm done enabling it. Batman's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Then you're a fool, Clark. You've seen what happens when power goes unchecked. You've lived through crisis after crisis, watched heroes fall to darkness, seen the multiverse nearly collapse, because no one was willing to make the hard choices. If I'm the prison warden, it's because someone needs to be. Goku had been listening quietly, watching the league fracture around him. Finally, he spoke. Batman, you're scared of me. I get it. Back home, people were scared of me too when they first learned what I was, a scion, a warrior race that destroyed planets. But fear doesn't have to control you. You can choose to trust, to give people a chance to prove themselves. I did trust once, Batman said. And for just a moment, something human showed through the armor and cowl. I trusted my parents to always be there. I trusted Gotham to have justice. I trusted that good people would be protected. Every one of those trusts was broken. He turned toward the door. I won't make that mistake with the fate of the world. He left, cape flowing behind him like smoke. And the Justice League sat in the wreckage of what should have been a welcoming celebration. I'm sorry, Goku said quietly. I didn't mean to cause problems. You didn't, Diana assured him. This conflict has been building for years. You merely brought it to the surface. She stood, warrior's grace evident in every movement. Bruce is right about one thing. Power must be checked, must be questioned. But he is wrong that fear should guide us. Would you still train with us, Goku? Help us understand your abilities so we can work together. Of course, Goku said. That's what I wanted from the beginning. As the League slowly resumed the gathering, trying to reclaim some of the warmth that Batman's words had stolen, Clark watched through the watchtower's windows at Earth below. Somewhere down there, Bruce was in the Batcave, alone with his plans and his contingencies and his certainty that he was right. And Clark knew with the terrible certainty of someone who'd called Bruce his best friend for years, that Batman would deploy his contingency, not out of malice, but out of fear, not to destroy, but to control. The same pattern that had led to Tower of Babel, to breaking the League's trust, to proving that paranoia and protection were separated by the thinnest of lines. The question was, when Batman made his move, when he poisoned Goku to prove his point, would Clark be willing to stop him? Or would their friendship die along with Bruce's last shred of heroism? The poisoning happened 3 days later, at a moment so perfect it could only have been orchestrated. Superman had organized a charity fundraiser, Wayne Foundation sponsoring a Metropolis food drive, with the Justice League making appearances to boost donations. Goku had been enthusiastic about helping, spending hours moving supply crates. With the same cheerful energy he brought to everything, the event culminated in a catered dinner for the volunteers, held in a Metropolis convention center decorated with League symbols and hope. Bruce Wayne attended personally, which should have been Clark's first warning. The billionaire rarely made public appearances alongside Batman's activities, maintaining the careful separation between identities. But here he was, shaking hands, writing checks, playing the philanthropist while the scion who terrified him moved boxes across the room. Mr. Wayne, Goku waved, having been introduced earlier. Thanks for setting this up. We've helped so many people today. It's the least I can do, Bruce said with the practiced smile of someone who'd perfected the Playboy mask decades ago. You've been invaluable. Superman tells me you have quite an appetite. There's a buffet set up specifically for League members. You should eat before the volunteers clear it out. Really? That's awesome. Goku's eyes lit up. I'm starving. Clark watched from across the room, something prickling at his instincts. Bruce was being too friendly, too accommodating. The same Bruce who'd called Goku an existential threat 3 days ago was now directing him toward food with the warmth of a gracious host. Diana noticed too. She moved closer to Clark, voice low. Something feels wrong. I know, Clark said, X-ray vision scanning the buffet table. Everything looked normal. Heat lamps keeping food warm. Volunteers serving, normal molecular structures in the dishes. Nothing obviously suspicious. But Bruce was the world's greatest detective, master of planning. If he'd prepared something, it would be undetectable by any conventional means. Should we stop this? Diana asked. On what grounds? Clark's frustration bled through. That Bruce smiled at Goku? That he's being hospitable? We have no proof, just suspicion. Sometimes suspicion is enough, Diana said quietly. In battle, you learn to trust your instincts before your evidence. But before either could act, Goku had reached the buffet and was loading. A plate with the enthusiasm of someone who'd moved tons of supplies through super strength and worked up a scion appetite. Bruce stood nearby, making small talk with donors, never looking directly at the buffet, but positioned perfectly to observe. Clark started forward, ready to intervene, to say something, to stop whatever was about to happen. But then Lois appeared at his elbow, pulling him toward a photographer who wanted pictures of Superman with the volunteers. And by the time he'd extricated himself, 3 seconds, maybe 4, Goku had already eaten half his plate. Delicious, Goku called out, waving at Clark. You guys know how to throw a party. Nothing happened. No immediate collapse. No dramatic poisoning scene from a detective novel. Goku continued eating, continued smiling, continued being himself. Clark felt his suspicions waver. Maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe Bruce had actually learned from Tower of Babel. Maybe paranoia was contagious and he'd caught it from the world's greatest detective. The event continued for another hour. Goku helped clean up afterward, still energetic, still powerful. Clark's X-ray vision showed nothing wrong with his biology. Heart rate normal. Cellular structure unchanged. Energy signature as powerful as ever. See, Goku said as they prepared to leave. Your friend Bruce is pretty nice when you get to know him. He even thanked me personally for helping. Yeah, Clark said quietly, watching Bruce Wayne's limousine pull away into metropolis traffic. Nice. The poison worked slowly. That was the genius of it. Contingency protocol. Scion Alpha had been designed to bind gradually to cellular energy receptors, mimicking natural cellular processes so that the body wouldn't recognize it as a foreign agent. It wouldn't kill, Batman didn't kill, but it would starve Goku's cells of their ability to process ki, reducing him from godlike warrior to baseline Scion physiology over the course of 72 hours. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it would be too late to identify the source. Batman watched from the Batcave, monitoring the nanite trackers he'd placed on Goku weeks ago. The Scion's energy signature was still strong, but the readings showed the toxin spreading through his bloodstream, binding to receptors, beginning its slow work. You've done it then, Alfred said from the stairs, and his voice carried a disappointment that cut deeper than any villain's blade. Cross the line I prayed you wouldn't. I protected Earth, Bruce said without looking away from the screens. That's my function. You poisoned an innocent man because you feared what he might become. Alfred corrected. That is not protection, Master Bruce. That is premeditated assault. If you believe otherwise, you have lost something fundamental to who you were. I know exactly who I am, Bruce said. I'm the one who makes the hard choices. The one who does what's necessary while everyone else clings to idealism and hope. You are the one who has become what you swore to fight, Alfred said quietly. I have watched you hunt criminals for decades. Master Bruce. Watched. You break bones and terrorize the guilty in the name of justice. But you never killed. You never harmed the innocent. That was your one inviolate rule. The line that separated you from the very evil you fought. He's not innocent, Bruce argued. He's a weapon waiting to go off. I'm defusing it before it detonates. He is a person, Alfred said, and there was steel beneath the cultured accent. A father who misses his children. A friend who trusts too easily. A warrior who seeks challenges, but has shown nothing but honor. And you have poisoned him because your fear has consumed your judgment. Bruce's hands stilled on the keyboard. For just a moment, doubt flickered across his face, the man beneath the mask questioning whether he'd finally gone too far. Then it hardened again into certainty. You weren't there for the injustice timeline. Didn't see Superman kill Shazam for questioning him. Didn't watch him burn through armies of heroes who opposed his regime. Power like that doesn't stay pure, Alfred. It corrupts, it twists, it turns even the best of us into monsters. Then what does that make you? Alfred asked. If power corrupts, if the ability to harm others turns heroes into villains, what are you now? You have the power to end Goku, and you've chosen to use it against an innocent. By your own logic, Master Bruce, you have become the very monster you fear. The silence in the Batcave was absolute. Even the bats had gone still. Get out, Bruce said quietly. Sir, I said get out. Bruce's voice cracked, and for the first time in years, Alfred heard the boy who'd watched his parents die instead of the man who'd become legend. I don't need your judgment, Alfred. I don't need anyone questioning me. I know what I'm doing. Alfred stood at the stairs for a long moment, looking at the man he'd raised, the child he'd failed to save from his own darkness. Then he turned and climbed into the manor, leaving Batman alone with his screens and his poison and his certainty that he was right. In Metropolis, Goku slept in the apartment Clark had arranged, dreaming of home and family and his next training session. The poison worked through his bloodstream, silent and efficient, and he felt nothing wrong, just the pleasant exhaustion of a good day's work and a full stomach. By morning, he'd noticed some fatigue. By afternoon, a strange heaviness in his limbs. By the next day, his ki would start to feel distant, harder to access. And within 72 hours, the warrior who could shatter planets would be reduced to something manageable, something Batman could control, something that no longer terrified him in the darkness. Clark couldn't sleep. He'd returned to the Kent farm in Smallville, needing the familiar comfort of the place that raised him. But even here, in the house where Jonathan and Martha had taught him about responsibility and compassion, he found no peace. His phone rang at 3 a.m., Diana's name on the screen. He did it, she said without preamble. I don't know how I know, but I know. That feeling at the fundraiser, Bruce orchestrated something. I think so too, Clark admitted. But I have no proof. I scanned Goku afterward, saw nothing wrong. Then we watch him closely, Diana said. And when Bruce's contingency reveals itself, and it will, it always does, we stop him. Together. Diana, if we're right. If Bruce actually poisoned Goku. Clark's voice caught. The League is finished. The Trinity is broken. Everything we've built falls apart. Then it falls, Diana said with warrior's pragmatism. Some things are more important than organizational unity. Honor, for instance. Justice. The protection of the innocent. If we sacrifice those things to preserve the League, what are we really protecting? Clark thought about Injustice Superman. About the slippery slope from protection to control. About how easy it was to justify any action if you believed strongly enough in its necessity. Bruce had spent years preparing for the day Superman might fall to darkness. But what happened when the Dark Knight himself became the threat? We'll be ready, Clark said. Whatever Bruce planned, we'll save Goku from it. And Bruce? Diana asked. What do we do about him? Clark looked out the window at the Kansas night, at the stars where his birth planet had once existed, at the universe that had brought him to Earth and taught him to be Superman. I don't know, he admitted. He's my best friend. Diana, the first hero who saw me as something other than an alien to fear. But if he's crossed this line, then he faces justice, Diana finished. The same justice he claims to represent. There can be no exceptions. Clark, not even for the world's greatest detective. They ended the call, and Clark sat in the darkness of his childhood home, preparing for a war he'd never wanted to fight. Against his friend. Against paranoia masquerading as protection. Against the very foundation of what the Justice League was supposed to represent. On Apocalypse, Darkseid watched Earth through dimensional viewers, and something that might have been satisfaction crossed his stone features. The Justice League was fracturing from within, turning on itself over philosophical differences and poisoned trust. The detective had deployed his weapon. The Kryptonian would defend the Scion. The Amazon would judge them all. And in the chaos of heroes at war with themselves, opportunities would present themselves. Opportunities to strike, to conquer, to prove once again that unity was illusion and power was the only truth that mattered. Excellent, Darkseid said to the empty throne room. Let them destroy each other. Then Earth will fall without resistance. The poison spread. The League fractured. And in Gotham's darkness, Batman told himself he'd save the world, even as everything he'd built began to crumble around him. Goku woke on the second day feeling wrong. Not sick exactly. He'd been sick before, knew what illness felt like in his scion body. This was different. It felt like his ki was there, but distant, like trying to grab water with chopsticks. He sat up in the apartment, tried to power up to Super Saiyan as a morning warm-up routine, and felt the transformation flicker and die before completing. What the? He tried again. His hair turned gold for a microsecond, then black. The energy signature that usually blazed around him sputtered like a dying flame. He stood, tried a basic ki blast, something he'd been able to do since childhood. A small sphere of energy formed in his palm, then dissipated. Not disappeared from being fired, but vanished like it had never existed. Fear touched Goku's mind for the first time since arriving on this earth. Not fear of enemies or danger, fear of losing what defined him. His power wasn't just strength. It was connection to the universe itself, the ability to push beyond limits. The one constant that had carried him through death and back. Without it, who was he? He tried instant transmission, focusing on Clark's energy in Metropolis. Nothing. The technique required. Key manipulation, and whatever was wrong with him had severed that connection. Okay, he said aloud, trying to stay calm like Whis had taught him. Don't panic. Figure this out. He attempted a basic kata, the fundamental movements Grandpa Gohan had taught him as a child. His body obeyed, but sluggishly. The speed that let him move faster than light was gone. He was still strong, Scion. Biology gave him advantages even. Depowered, but it was like moving through water after living in air. The apartment door burst open, Superman, moving at Kryptonian speed, concern etched on his face. Goku, I felt your power signature fluctuating. Clark stopped. X-ray vision scanning. His expression shifted from concern to horror. Oh God, Bruce actually did it. Did what? Goku asked, and the weakness in his voice scared him more than any enemy. Clark was beside him instantly, supporting him as Goku's legs suddenly felt too heavy. You've been poisoned. Something's blocking your cellular energy absorption. Your ki production is being suppressed at the molecular level. Poisoned? Goku's mind raced. When? How? The fundraiser, Clark said grimly. It has to be. Bruce was there. He directed you to the food. His eyes blazed red for a moment, not intentionally firing heat vision, just rage manifesting physically. He actually did it. He poisoned you to prove his point about threats. Batman. Goku slumped into a chair, the simple act of standing suddenly exhausting. But why? I haven't done anything wrong. Because he's afraid, Clark said. Afraid of what you represent. Afraid of power he can't control. Afraid of the possibility that you might become a threat. So he decided to eliminate the possibility before it could become reality. Goku felt anger start to build, a hot, furious thing that wanted to power up, to confront Batman, to demand answers. But he couldn't power up, couldn't even generate enough ki to fly. For the first time since childhood, he was helpless. Can you fix it? Goku asked quietly. Clark's expression told him everything. I don't know. Bruce designed this specifically for your biology. I need to get you to the watchtower. Have our medical facilities analyze the toxin, reverse engineer an antidote. He activated his communicator. Diana, John, Cyborg, emergency. Watchtower medical bay now. And someone locate Batman. Clark, Goku said, and his voice carried something the Man of Steel had never heard before. Resignation. If I can't be strong, I can't protect anyone. Back home, that's all I've ever been good at. Fighting, protecting, pushing past limits. Without my power. He looked at his hands. I'm just some guy who eats too much. No, Clark said firmly, kneeling to meet Goku's eyes. You're a person who values growth and friendship, who extends mercy to enemies, who sees the best in people even when they don't deserve it. That's not about power, Goku. That's about character. Character doesn't stop planet destroyers, Goku said bitterly. Character doesn't save universes. No, but it's what makes saving them meaningful, Clark replied. He helped Goku stand. Come on, we're going to fix this. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation with Bruce about what it means to be a hero. They teleported to the watchtower via transporter. Goku couldn't even manage instant transmission anymore. The medical bay was already filled with League members. Diana's face was carved from stone, Warrior's rage barely contained. John's telepathic presence radiated distress and anger. Victor's cybernetic systems were already interfacing with medical scanners before they'd even gotten Goku onto the examination table. How bad? Diana asked Clark. Cellular-level toxin suppressing key production, Clark said. Designed specifically for Scion biology. Bruce's work. That son of a Hal Jordan appeared in a flash of green light, his ring already blazing. Where is he? I'll drag him here by his cape. Batman isn't responding to communication, John said, his mental voice tight with controlled fury. He has blocked telepathic contact and gone dark. Of course he has, Diana said. He knows what he's done and knows we'll come for him. She looked at Goku. On the medical table, this warrior who'd faced gods and survived, now weakened by treachery. Coward's tactics. This is not how warriors settle disputes. Victor's eye glowed as he analyzed Goku's blood. This is incredibly sophisticated. The toxin is binding to specialized receptors I've never seen before. These must be unique to Scion's cellular structure. It's not killing the cells, just preventing them from generating or storing key energy. He looked up, human frustration mixing with cybernetic analysis. Whoever designed this knew exactly what they were doing. This is targeted elimination of abilities, without causing permanent biological damage. Can you reverse it? Clark demanded. Maybe, Victor said. But I need time to understand how it works, develop a counteragent. Hours, minimum. Maybe days. I don't have days, Goku said from the table. Already his enhanced senses were dulling, his reaction time slowing to merely superhuman instead of transcendent. What if someone attacks Earth? What if you need me? Then we handle it, Diana said firmly. As we always have. You are not responsible for the universe's safety alone. Goku, that burden is shared. Barry vibrated into the medical bay, his face flushed with speedster adrenaline and fury. I just checked the Batcave. He's not there. Checked every safe house in Gotham. Nothing. It's like he vanished. He's watching, John said. I can sense his presence at the edge of my telepathic range. But he's using blockers to prevent direct contact. He knows we're searching for him. When I find him, Hal said, green energy crackling around his fists, You're going to do nothing that compromises bringing him to justice. Clark interrupted, his voice carrying command authority that made even the Green Lantern pause. We don't sink to his level. We don't become what he feared we might become. We handle this the right way. The right way? Hal shot back. He poisoned someone. Premeditated, calculated poisoning of an innocent. That's not a superhero contingency, Clark. That's attempted murder. It's not murder, Victor said quietly, still working on analysis. The toxin is non-lethal. It suppresses abilities, but won't kill. Batman stayed in character. He didn't cross his one line. No, Diana said coldly. He crossed a different line. One perhaps more important. He attacked an innocent out of fear. That is not justice. That is tyranny. Goku listened to them argue, feeling strangely distant from it all. Back home, when enemies attacked, the response was simple. Fight. Win or lose. Grow stronger. But this was different. This was politics, philosophy, betrayal wrapped in good intentions. Batman genuinely believed he was protecting Earth. The League genuinely believed they were protecting justice. And Goku was caught in the middle, his power stripped away because someone feared what he might become. Hey, he said quietly, and something in his voice made everyone stop. I get it now. What you guys deal with every day? Back home, it's simpler. Bad guys attack. We fight them. We win. But here, you're fighting each other. Fighting your own fears about what you might become. Batman's scared of me, but he's also scared of you. Clark, scared of everyone with power. That doesn't excuse what he's done, Clark said. No, Goku agreed. But maybe I understand it. Back home, Frieza destroyed my entire race because he feared what Scions might become. The legendary Super Scion prophesied to defeat him, so he committed genocide to prevent a possibility. Batman's doing the same thing, just on a smaller scale. He's so afraid of the future that he's willing to commit evil in the present to prevent it. Wisdom, John observed, often comes from unexpected places. The medical bay doors hissed open. Everyone tensed, ready for confrontation, but it wasn't Batman. It was Alfred Pennyworth, carrying a small case and looking older than any of them had ever seen him. Miss Diana, Master Clark, Alfred said formally. I believe I have something that might help. Alfred, Clark approached carefully. What are you doing here? Betraying my employer's confidence, Alfred said simply. He opened the case, revealing a vial of clear liquid and a data drive. This is the counteragent to the toxin Master Bruce deployed. He synthesized it simultaneously with the poison. Batman doesn't attack without also creating the defense, in case he needs to reverse the effects. Victor grabbed the vial immediately, scanning it. It's perfect. Exactly targeted to unbind the toxin and restore normal cellular function. How did you get this? Diana asked Alfred gently. I took it from the Batcave, Alfred said, along with all of Master Bruce's research notes on contingency. Protocol Scion Alpha. Everything you need to cure young Goku, and, if necessary, to prosecute Master Bruce for what he's done. Alfred, Clark said quietly, you know what this means. You're ending his career, possibly sending him to prison. I am saving his soul, Alfred corrected. Or attempting to. Master Bruce has lost his way. He believes preparation and protection are synonymous. That fear is wisdom. That preemptive strikes against the innocent are justified if they prevent possible future threats. If he is not stopped, if he is not held accountable, he will continue down this path until he becomes precisely the villain. He swore to fight. He looked at each of them, this elderly butler who'd raised a broken boy into a legend, and there were tears in his eyes. I have failed him as I failed his parents. I could not save them from death, and I could not save him from becoming this. But perhaps you can save him from himself. Perhaps accountability will remind him why he put on the cowl in the first place. Diana took the case reverently. Your sacrifice is noted, Alfred Pennyworth. And honored. Just save the boy, Alfred said, looking at Goku. He reminds me of Master Bruce when he was young, before Gotham's darkness consumed him. All potential and hope and trust. Don't let that be destroyed. Victor administered the counteragent, and within minutes, Goku felt his ki returning like sunrise after endless night. The energy flooded back, familiar and warm, and he gasped with relief as his power signature stabilized. It's working, Victor confirmed. Full restoration expected within the hour. Goku sat up, feeling himself again, and looked at the Justice League assembled around him. They were preparing for war against one of their own, against the man who'd helped found their team, against someone they'd all called friend. When you find him, Goku said quietly, let me talk to him first. Goku, he tried to neutralize you, Clark protested. I know, Goku said, but I also know what it's like to fight someone who's lost their way. Sometimes the only way to reach them is to show them their fear was unfounded. Let me prove to Batman that his worst-case scenario doesn't have to come true. Diana studied him with Warrior's assessment, then nodded slowly. You have earned that right. But if he attacks again, then I defend myself, Goku finished. But I want to try talking first. Maybe that's naive. Maybe that's the stupid trust Batman was afraid of. But it's who I am. In the Batcave, hidden behind every electronic countermeasure and physical barrier he'd developed over decades. Batman watched the Watchtower feeds and felt his certainty crack. Alfred had betrayed him. The League had united against him. And Goku, the threat he'd neutralized, the power he'd contained, was choosing compassion over vengeance. Bruce Wayne sat in darkness and confronted the possibility he'd spent his entire life avoiding. That he was wrong. Batman chose to face them in Gotham, not the Batcave. That felt too much like retreat. Instead, he stood on the roof of the GCPD building, where he'd first established his alliance with Jim Gordon, where the bat signal cast its warning to the criminal underworld. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. This was where heroes stood. This was where justice was supposed to happen. The Justice League arrived as dawn broke over Gotham's Gothic skyline. Superman descended first, cape flowing in the wind, morning sunlight making him glow like the symbol of hope he represented. Wonder Woman landed with warrior's grace, hand near her lasso but not drawing it. Goku appeared via instant transmission, fully powered, fully capable of ending Batman with a thought. Behind them, the rest of the League assembled, Green Lantern's ring blazing, Flash vibrating with barely contained energy, Cyborg systems armed, Martian Manhunter's telepathic presence a pressure against Bruce's Cyblockers, and in the center of them all, Alfred Pennyworth, looking at Bruce with profound sadness. Bruce, Clark said, and his voice carried the weight of a friendship breaking. It's over. Alfred gave us everything. The toxin, the counteragent, your entire contingency file. We have evidence of premeditated assault. You need to answer for what you've done." Batman stood perfectly still, cowl shadowing his face. White lenses revealing nothing. "I protected Earth from a potential extinction-level threat. That's my function in this team. Your function is not judge, jury, and executioner," Diana said, her voice hard as Amazonian steel. "You attacked an innocent based on fear and speculation. That is not justice, Bruce. That is tyranny." "I ran the calculations," Batman replied. "Goku's power signature exceeds our entire league combined. His psychological profile shows pattern seeking for increasingly dangerous opponents. His moral framework operates on personal judgment rather than systematic law. In every scenario I modeled, the probability of him becoming a threat exceeded 90%. Probability isn't certainty," Victor said. "You based your actions on what might happen, not what did happen. That's thought crime, Batman. That's everything we're supposed to stand against." "I've seen what happens when we wait for certainty," Bruce shot back. "I've seen the injustice timeline where no one stopped. Superman before he became a dictator. I've lived through crisis events where minutes of hesitation cost millions of lives. Preparation is what separates heroes from casualties." "No," Goku said quietly, stepping forward. His power signature was blazing now, fully restored, and everyone felt the pressure of it. "Preparation is what separates the living from the dead. But fear is what separates heroes from villains." Batman's lenses fixed on him. "You should be furious. I poisoned you, stripped your power. Why aren't you attacking?" "Because I understand," Goku said simply. "Back home, I've made mistakes too. I spared Vegeta when everyone told me to kill him. He destroyed entire civilizations. I gave Cell a Senza bean during our fight because I wanted a fair match. And that almost cost my son his life. I trusted Frieza to keep his word during the tournament of power when everyone knew he'd betray us." He moved closer, standing within arm's reach of Batman. "I've been called naive, stupid, reckless. And sometimes those people were right. But you know what? Vegeta became my best friend. Cell's defeat taught me about sacrifice. And Frieza, complicated, but we found a way to work together." "Anecdotal evidence," Batman said. "For every redemption story, there are 100 cases where trust got people killed." "Maybe," Goku admitted. "But I'd rather live in a universe where trust is possible than one where fear controls everything." "You wanted to know if I'd become a threat, Batman. Here's your answer. I could kill you right now, faster than anyone here could stop me. I could prove every fear you had was justified by becoming exactly what you were afraid of." He held out his hand. "Or I could offer you the trust you don't think you deserve, and see if that changes anything." The rooftop was silent except for Gotham's eternal background symphony. Sirens, traffic, the city's heartbeat. Every hero present held their breath, waiting to see what Batman would do. Whether the world's greatest detective could accept that he'd been wrong, or whether pride and certainty would cement him as the villain. This confrontation had made him. Bruce looked at Goku's outstretched hand, calloused from training, strong enough to shatter planets, extended in friendship despite having every right to demand vengeance. He thought about his parents bleeding in Crime Alley, about decades of preparation and contingency planning, about Tower of Babel and the moment the League's trust in him had broken the first time, about Alfred's betrayal that wasn't betrayal at all, but an attempt to save him from himself. "I poisoned you," Bruce said. And for the first time since donning the cowl, his voice cracked. "Calculated exactly how to strip your power, deployed it without hesitation, monitored your deterioration like a lab experiment. I treated you like a threat to be neutralized instead of a person, deserving basic respect. And your response is to offer trust." "My response," Goku said, "is to show you that your worst fear doesn't have to come true. You were afraid I'd become a monster. I'm choosing not to be. That's the difference between possibility and reality, Batman. We get to choose who we become." Bruce's hand moved slowly, painfully, like it was fighting, against every instinct he'd honed over decades of paranoia and preparation. His fingers brushed Goku's palm, and Alfred stepped forward, voice carrying across the rooftop with butler's precision. "Master Bruce, you have a choice before you. Accept responsibility for your actions. Face justice as you've forced countless others to face it, and perhaps find redemption. Or refuse, retreat into certainty and fear, and lose everything that made you a hero, rather than simply another criminal with better technology. Alfred, Bruce's voice was barely a whisper. You gave them everything. I gave them what justice required, Alfred said gently. Just as you taught me, Master Bruce. No one is above the law. Not criminals, not heroes, not even the Batman. Bruce's hand closed around Goku's, the grip firm despite everything. I was wrong, he said, and the words seemed to cost him everything. I let fear override judgment. Let preparation become premeditation. I convinced myself that protecting Earth justified any action, any betrayal, any evil done in the name of preventing greater evil. He looked at Clark, at Diana, at the league he'd helped build. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough, Diana said, but her voice had lost its hard edge. You must face consequences. I know, Bruce said. He reached up slowly. Everyone tensed, but he was only removing his cowl. Bruce Wayne stood revealed, looking older and more tired than any of them had ever seen him. I'll turn myself in. Face charges for assault, attempted depowerment of a metahuman. Whatever prosecutors deem appropriate. The Batman is done. No, Clark said suddenly, and everyone turned to look at him. The Batman isn't done. Bruce Wayne made a catastrophic error in judgment. But Batman is more than one man's mistakes. It's a symbol, an idea, a promise to Gotham that someone will stand against the darkness. Clark, he poisoned someone, Hal protested. We can't throw away everything he's built because of one terrible choice. Clark interrupted. Yes, he faces consequences. Yes, he's suspended from league activities pending a full review. Yes, he undergoes psychological evaluation and proves he can be trusted again. But we don't destroy the symbol because the man faltered. That's extremely generous, Victor observed, considering he literally tried to neutralize Goku. It's not about generosity, Clark said. It's about the kind of league we want to be. One that destroys members who fail, or one that holds them accountable, while offering paths to redemption. He looked at Bruce. Tower of Babel almost ended us. This is worse. But if we can't find a way forward, if we can't model the kind of justice we claim to represent, then what are we protecting? Goku squeezed Bruce's hand once, then released it. Back home, we have something called the hyperbolic time chamber. It's where people go to train when they need to grow stronger fast. Maybe you need something like that, a place to figure out how to be Batman without letting fear control you. That's actually not a bad idea, John said, his telepathic voice thoughtful. Batman could undergo intensive psychological counseling, supervised training in trust-based operations, a structured program to address the trauma-rooted paranoia that led to this incident. Essentially rehabilitation, Diana said. Warrior cultures understand this. When a soldier loses their way, they must be retrained in the codes of honor, not punished and discarded, but reminded why they took up arms in the first place. Bruce looked at them, his team, his friends, the people he'd betrayed and who were somehow still offering him a path back. Why? Why not just cast me out? I'd understand. I'd accept it. Because you taught us better, Clark said quietly. You taught us that preparation matters, that we need to question ourselves. That power without accountability is tyranny. Those lessons are still valid, Bruce. You just forgot to apply them to yourself. Also, Barry added with a small smile, we kind of need you. No offense to anyone else here, but you're the only one who thinks 10 steps ahead. We just need to make sure those steps don't lead to preemptive poisoning. Despite everything, the betrayal, the tension, the fracture in the team, several people smiled. There's still the matter of legal consequences, Diana said. Goku has the right to press charges. Everyone looked at the Scion, who scratched his head in his characteristic gesture. Where I'm from, if someone wrongs you, you settle it with a fight or you let it go. I don't really understand your legal system. But, he looked at Bruce, if Batman's really going to work on trusting people, including me, then I guess pressing charges would kind of undermine that, right? You're under no obligation to forgive him, Clark said carefully. I know, Goku said, but I've been on the other side, made mistakes, trusted wrong people, caused problems I didn't intend. People gave me chances. Seems fair to give Batman one too. Bruce's expression was unreadable, but those who knew him well could see the impact of Goku's mercy. The warrior who had every right to vengeance was choosing trust instead, modeling the very behavior Bruce had been afraid didn't exist. League vote then, Diana said. Batman's status, temporary suspension, mandatory psychological evaluation, supervised return to active duty contingent on professional assessment. All in favor. Hands raised around the rooftop. Not unanimously. Hal's hand stayed down. His faith in Batman too shaken, but enough. A majority choosing accountability with redemption over punishment without hope. Alfred, Bruce said, turning to the man who'd raised him. I owe you an apology too. You were right. About everything. I know, sir, Alfred said with the smallest of smiles. I usually am, but I appreciate hearing it nonetheless. The sun had fully risen over Gotham now, burning away the city's shadows. And on the GCPD rooftop, something shifted. Not healed. Healing would take time, would require work and trust rebuilt through action, not words. But the first step had been taken. Batman would face consequences. The League would continue, scarred but stronger for having confronted its internal darkness. And Goku, the warrior whose power had terrified Earth's greatest detective, had proven that strength and compassion weren't opposites, but partners in the eternal fight for something better. So, Goku said as the tension finally broke. Now that we're past the poisoning thing, anyone want to spar? I've been depowered for days, and I really need to stretch. Despite everything, despite the gravity of what had happened, Clark laughed. Because that was Goku, facing down betrayal and offering not vengeance, but friendship and a good fight. I'll spar with you, Diana said, warrior's smile emerging. I've been curious about these transformations you mention. Let's see if an Amazon can match a Super Saiyan. As the League prepared to leave the rooftop, as Bruce began the long road of accountability and redemption, as Gotham stirred to life beneath them, something had fundamentally changed. The question Batman had asked, whether absolute power could be trusted, had been answered not through contingencies and fear, but through choice. Goku chose not to become the monster Batman feared. Batman chose to acknowledge his error rather than justify it. The League chose accountability over destruction. And in those choices, perhaps, lay the real answer to what it meant to be a hero in a universe of gods and shadows. 3 months later, Metropolis had adjusted to having a Scion as a semi-permanent resident, the way it had adjusted to Superman, with cautious optimism and tremendous food bills. Goku had found his rhythm on this earth, training with the League, helping with threats both cosmic and street level, and somehow becoming Metropolis's second favorite alien hero, through sheer enthusiasm and the kind of earnest goodness that was impossible to fake. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday, which seemed fitting. Nothing universe-ending, nothing apocalyptic, just Goku meditating in Centennial Park, trying to sense the dimensional currents that had brought him here when he felt it. A familiar energy signature from his home universe. Faint but present, like a thread connecting realities. I found it, he said when Clark landed beside him, having sensed Goku's sudden spike of excitement. The way home. I can feel my Earth. My universe. It's like instant transmission, but across dimensions instead of distance. Clark felt something twist in his chest, happiness for his friend, an unexpected sadness. That's amazing, Goku. When will you go? Soon, Goku said. Chi-Chi's probably furious I've been gone so long without calling. And I miss the kids, miss training with Vegeta, miss my own Earth's food. He grinned. No offense to this world's cooking, but I really want some of Bulma's Capsule Corp specialties. None taken, Clark said. Will you come back? Visit, I mean. If I can figure out the dimensional coordinates, definitely, Goku said. You guys have been amazing. Even Batman, in his weird way. Speaking of, how's he doing? The answer was complicated. Batman had undergone 3 months of intensive psychological evaluation with doctors who specialized in trauma and vigilante psychology. He discovered, or perhaps finally acknowledged, that decades of operating in Gotham's darkness had calcified his fear responses into something closer to paranoia. The Tower of Babel incident hadn't been an anomaly. The Scion contingency hadn't been a one-time lapse. Batman had been slowly losing the ability to see people as anything other than potential threats. He was working on it, slowly, under supervision. He's better, Clark said carefully. Still Batman, still strategic, still prepared. But he's learning to recognize when preparation crosses into preemption. He asks himself now, am I responding to evidence or to fear? It's progress. Good, Goku said. I'd like to say goodbye before I leave. Let him know there's no hard feelings. They found Bruce in the Batcave. Though it looked different than it had 3 months ago, the contingency files were still there. Batman couldn't be Batman without them, but they'd been reviewed by League ethics officers, modified to focus on defensive rather than offensive protocols. The screens tracking potential threats now included a secondary monitor tracking Bruce's own psychological state, biometric readings that Alfred and a League-appointed counselor reviewed daily. Goku, Bruce said, not turning from his analysis. Then he paused, saved his work, and actually swiveled his chair to face them. Small gesture, but significant. Acknowledgement that people deserved attention, not just threats. Clark said you found a way home. Yeah, Goku said. Wanted to thank you before I left. For the challenge, I guess. Back home, I'm used to physical threats, guys who want to destroy planets or conquer universes. You made me think about different kinds of danger, about how good intentions can lead to bad actions if you're not careful. Bruce's expression was hard to read, but his voice was quiet when he spoke. I owe you more than an apology. You responded to my assault with mercy I didn't deserve. That's a lesson I'm still learning. We're both learning, Goku said. That's kind of the point, right? Getting stronger, but not just physically. Understanding stuff better, making better choices. You're doing that. Am I? Bruce asked, and there was genuine uncertainty in his voice. Some days I'm not sure if I'm recovering or just better at hiding the paranoia. That's why you have us, Clark said firmly. That's why the League exists, not just to stop threats, but to stop each other from becoming threats. You taught us that, Bruce. Now let us return the favor. Goku pulled something from his GI, a small bean, orange-colored. Unremarkable to anyone who didn't know what it was. This is a Senza bean. From my world. It heals injuries, restores energy, even regenerates lost limbs. I've only got 3 left, and I need to save them for emergencies back home. But I want you to have one. Bruce stared at the bean like it was a weapon. Why? Because you're hurt, Goku said simply. Not physically, your body's fine. But you're healing from something deeper, and healing is hard. This won't fix that kind of hurt. But maybe knowing someone trusts you with something valuable will help a little. Back home, we only give Senza beans to people we trust to use them right. So, I trust you, Batman. Bruce took the bean with hands that almost trembled. This small token that represented forgiveness and faith from someone he'd tried to neutralize. Thank you, he said, and meant it more than he'd meant anything in years. The farewell tour took 2 days. Goku sparred with Diana, who pushed him to Super Saiyan Blue and still managed to hold her own through warriors, skill, and Amazonian ferocity. He raced Barry across the United States, both of them laughing as they turned physics into suggestion. He let Hal's ring scan him fully, sharing information about key energy that might help. Green Lanterns understand different power sources. He played video games with Victor, taught John about Namekian culture from his world, and even visited Gotham to say goodbye to Alfred. Young Master Goku, Alfred said over tea in Wayne Manor, you've done something I thought impossible, reminded Master Bruce why he became Batman in the first place. Not out of fear, but out of hope that one person could make a difference. I just tried to be myself, Goku said. Turns out that was enough. On the final day, the Justice League assembled in Centennial Park where Goku had first arrived. The dimensional rift he'd sensed was stable now, a tear in reality that only he could perceive, leading back to his universe. So this is it, Clark said. You're really going. Have to, Goku said. Chi-Chi will kill me if I'm gone much longer. Besides, Beerus might have woken up from his nap and destroyed Earth out of boredom. Someone's got to keep him fed and entertained. You have a god of destruction you keep as a pet. Hal asked incredulously. Not a pet, Goku corrected. More like a really powerful friend who might destroy the planet if the food's not good enough. It's complicated. Your universe is insane, Barry said admiringly. Yours isn't exactly normal, Goku pointed out. You've got a guy in a bat costume, an Amazon princess, and an alien who gets power from the sun all working together. That's pretty weird from my perspective. Diana stepped forward, warrior to warrior. You honor us with your friendship. Son Goku, should you ever return, Know that the Justice League stands with you. And if you need help in your universe, Clark added, find a way to contact us. We'll come running. Same goes for you guys, Goku said. If some big threat shows up and you need extra firepower, I'll figure out the dimensional. Travel and be here. He looked at each of them, heroes, who'd become friends, who'd taught him that strength came in forms other than ki and transformations. You're all pretty amazing, you know that? Even when you're fighting each other, you're trying to do the right thing. That's what really matters. Bruce stood slightly apart from the group, still not fully reintegrated, still earning his way back. Goku walked over to him, extended his hand again. Take care of them, Goku said. They need someone who thinks different, who asks hard questions, who prepares for the worst. Just remember, preparing for the worst doesn't mean assuming the worst. There's a difference. Bruce gripped his hand firmly. I'm learning that. Slowly. Slowly's fine, Goku said. As long as you keep moving forward. He stepped back, gathered his ki. It flared gold around him as he accessed Super Saiyan, then flickered out as he returned to base form. Just a demonstration of control, of power held in check by choice. Then he placed 2 fingers to his forehead in the instant transmission stance. Oh, he said suddenly. Almost forgot. Clark, if you ever meet another Saiyan, tell them Goku says hi. And if they're hostile, hit them really hard first. Ask questions later. We respect strength. Noted, Clark said with a smile. And Diana, keep practicing that warrior's spirit. You're already incredible, but you could totally go further if you wanted. Perhaps I will visit your universe someday and learn from these Saiyans. Diana said. That'd be awesome. Goku's grin was radiant. Okay, for real this time. See you guys around. He focused on the dimensional rift, on the familiar energy of his home universe, on Gohan and Goten and Chi-Chi and Vegeta and all the people who made his Earth worth protecting. The world around him began to shimmer, reality bending as he prepared to cross the dimensional barrier. Goku, Clark called out. One more thing, was it worth it? Coming here, dealing with everything that happened? Goku paused mid-transportation, thought about the question. About being poisoned by someone who feared him. About making friends with gods and warriors. About learning that heroism wasn't universal but instead shaped by the world that needed it. Yeah, he said finally. Totally worth it. I'm stronger now, not just power-wise, but understanding-wise. Your universe taught me that strength isn't enough. You need wisdom too, and trust, and the courage to believe in people even when they don't believe in themselves. Then he was gone, dimensional energy folding around him. The rift closing as Son Goku returned to universe 7 with stories of gods who walked as men, of dark knights who fought their own darkness, and of a universe where hope and fear battled eternally in the space between stars. The Justice League stood in Centennial Park, crater still visible from Goku's arrival 3 months prior, and felt his absence like a missing heartbeat. Think we'll see him again? Barry asked. Knowing Goku, Clark smiled. He'll probably show up in the middle of our next crisis event, completely by accident, looking for a good fight. I look forward to it, Diana said. He reminded us what we fight for. Not just to stop threats, but to prove that power and goodness can coexist. He also ate his weight in food daily and nearly bankrupted 3 buffets. Victor added, let's not romanticize everything. They laughed, and even Bruce managed a small smile. The tension of the past. Months hadn't vanished. Trust would take time to rebuild fully, but something had shifted. They'd confronted their darkest impulses, faced internal conflict, and emerged not unscathed but intact. In his universe, Goku materialized in a familiar field outside Capsule Corp, where Vegeta was training and immediately sensed his rival's return. About time, Vegeta growled, dropping out of Super Saiyan Blue. Where the hell have you been, Kakarot? You wouldn't believe me if I told you, Goku said, grinning. I met another guy who flies and has super strength. Fought with a warrior princess. Got poisoned by a really paranoid genius. And made friends with people who might be as strong as us if they trained right. You're right, Vegeta said. I don't believe you. Now stop babbling and spar with me. I've developed a new technique while you were gone, and I want to test it on someone who can take it. And just like that, Goku was home, where challenges were straightforward, where strength was respected, where the next fight was always waiting. But he carried something new with him now, understanding that heroism took many forms. that fear and hope were two sides of the same coin, and that sometimes the greatest strength was choosing trust when fear seemed safer. In the Batcave, Bruce Wayne analyzed the sins of being under every scanner available, learning its properties, understanding its molecular structure, not to weaponize it. He was learning, slowly, not to see gifts as potential threats, but to understand. Because understanding was the first step toward trust, and trust was what he'd lost and needed to reclaim. On his monitor, a new file had appeared. Not a contingency plan, but something different. A document titled Lessons from a Scion. Why Fear is Not Preparation. He opened it, began to read his own words. His own attempts to articulate what Goku had taught him without knowing he was teaching. And for the first time in decades, Batman allowed himself to hope that preparation and trust weren't mutually exclusive, that he could be both protector and friend, both strategic and compassionate, both Batman and Bruce Wayne. The sins of being sat in its containment case, a reminder that someone with every reason to distrust had chosen differently, a reminder that strength without mercy was just power, and power without wisdom was just fear with a mask. The DC Universe would remember the Scion who fell through dimensions and taught its greatest heroes that power was a choice, not a destiny. In the years that followed, the Justice League operated differently, still prepared, still vigilant, but with an understanding that contingencies built on fear created the very threats they sought to prevent. Batman remained Batman, but evolved. He developed defensive protocols instead of offensive ones, prepared responses to threats rather than preemptive strikes against possibilities. And on the hardest days, when Gotham's darkness threatened to consume him again, he looked at the sins of being and remembered. Someone had trusted him when he didn't deserve it. Superman continued his eternal struggle to inspire hope in a universe that often chose fear, but with new conviction. Goku had proven that power and innocence could coexist, that godlike strength didn't inevitably corrupt. The specter of injustice Superman faded slightly, replaced by the memory of a warrior who'd faced betrayal with mercy. Wonder Woman trained harder, pushing her limits, inspired by a fighter who saw combat as growth rather than merely conflict. The Amazon princess who'd walked between the worlds of gods and mortals found kinship with a scion who'd done the same. And across the dimensional barrier, in Universe 7, Goku trained with his friends and family, fought new threats, protected his Earth with the same enthusiastic determination he always had. But sometimes, when he reached the peak of his power, when Ultra Instinct made him something beyond mortal comprehension, he thought about a universe where heroes feared becoming villains, so much they nearly became what they feared. He thought about Batman's poison and Superman's hope and wonder, woman's warrior's honor. He thought about a Justice League that fought its own darkness as fiercely as it fought external threats. And he understood that strength had infinite expressions, that heroism was cultural and contextual, that the fight against evil began with the fight against your own capacity for it. Two universes, forever changed by a dimensional accident and a scion smile. Two philosophies, one that prepared for the worst, one that hoped for the best, finding synthesis in the understanding that both were necessary, that neither alone was sufficient, that true heroism lived in the balance between Batman's fear and Goku's trust. The rift had closed, the crisis had passed, but the lesson remained, written in the space between stars, in the silence between heartbeats, in the eternal struggle between light and darkness that defined heroes in every universe. Power untempered by wisdom creates tyrants. Wisdom untempered by power creates victims. But power and wisdom together, fear and hope balanced, preparation and trust unified, that creates something the multiverse desperately needs. That creates heroes worthy of the title.